We got PlayStation plans new service to take on Xbox Game Pass. This is from Bloomberg News. This is on the 3rd of December. Sony's PlayStation division is planning a new subscription service to compete with Xbox Game Pass, according to people familiar with Sony's plans and documents reviewed by Bloomberg. So it's not officially released from Sony at the moment. The service is codenamed Spartacus and is launching sometime in spring 2022. Spartacus will merge Sony's two existing subscription plans, PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now. Documents reviewed by Bloomberg suggest that Sony plans to retain the PlayStation Plus branding but phase out PlayStation Now. So Project Spartacus is said to be offered in 3 subscription levels. The first one, there is no actual name to them, but I put the silver, gold, and platinum
I
as a
saw
way to
those. I got
conceptualize.
really excited.
Yeah, this isn't official, but I just put because you have to imagine they're going to put some branding on these 3 different tiers and explain why to consumers, which one is priority, which one's base level. Anyway, so we got the first one. The first would include existing PlayStation Plus benefits, so online multiplayer, the same possible free monthly game every month. The second would offer a large catalog of PS4 and PS5 games to stream or download. The third tier would add extended demos and a library of classic PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP games. So this is still rumored. Apparently, it's down the line. What do you think about this? These rumors here from Bloomberg?
Yeah, I think it's like inevitable slightly, just because I think that's just the way everything's going now as subscription services, mostly obviously in TV and everything. But now we've seen it with Game Pass, and obviously PlayStation Now is already kind of comparable, just not in the scope of Game Pass. So yeah, I think it's exciting it's exciting because I think it's just kind of messy having Plus and PlayStation Now. So it would just be nice to have like them combined in some way. But yeah, I don't know. There's still something to say about like just buying games as well. I know it doesn't really make sense, but I guess it's just like this sounds to me like this is it now. Like this is going to be the full change where everything's just going to become subscription based. Obviously the choice will still be there to buy games, but it's just it's a bit. If this happens and it happens as we expect it to, then it's going to be a big like shift in how we consume things and how we buy things.
Yeah, it's a loaded conversation, but this one is interesting where PlayStation does have to, at least on paper, compete, quote unquote, with Game Pass. But we talked about in the past quite a bit where they already do compete. You have PlayStation Plus, which is a service that predates Game Pass, where you get a free monthly game. Now, granted, it's not Game Pass level where their first party games launch their day and date, and I don't think Project Spartacus is that. I think they're still going to have their Naughty Dog stuff. Their first party big juggernauts are going to release separate. This is more of a offering the other games that are releasing on PS4 and eventually PS5, kind of filling out the catalog. Depending on which tier you get, you still have your access to monthly free games, your multiplayer, and then the back catalog of PlayStation games. It seems like this is more of, I guess, just on paper, here's our, response to Game Pass, but it's still not going to be what Game Pass does, where it's because the big draw for me with Game Pass is getting those big juggernaut games day and date, like Infinite was right out the gate. Don't have to buy it. It's there. As long as I keep that subscription and as long as these huge games keep coming, I'll keep that subscription going. But you're right where it's going to be weird if the priority or the intention is having you a subscriber and not buying games. It's a bit weird, but I guess if the game is big enough, I'll just flat out buy it. And if I intend on playing the hell out of that, I'm just going to buy it flat out. But it's weird. But they are competing. I don't know if they really have to, but maybe on paper they need to have something that says this is our version of Game Pass.
Yeah, I think I guess it is a way for them to just make the comparisons easier as well. But for me, it's just the case of wanting to play. I mean, especially even with Game Pass, like the main thing about Game Pass since I've got my Xbox is seeing all these older games, like things like Fallout 3 and the Fable games, and was another good example, like Dead Space, and all these games that I can just download and play, and they'll play really, really well on the Xbox. And they're all PS3 games. I mean, not Fable, obviously, but you can't. There's no way to play these older games on PlayStation 5 unless you want to stream them, which is problematic for pretty much everybody. So I just want to be able to play PS3 games natively on the PS5, and a big part of it for me is obviously trophies. Trophies are nice, but also um, just I just want to having an Xbox is like having just a machine that has all the games that you ever want to play on it, and it'd be nice to have that in on both systems because again, not everyone has an Xbox, so it'd be nice for people to who only have PlayStation to be able to have that same like feeling of accessibility to all of these games that, and not just because I want to play games that I love that are a bit older now, but also games that I missed out on that are stranded on older hardware or whatever that are easily accessible on Xbox, and not just through Game Pass as well, but hopefully something like this if PlayStation do focus on getting PlayStation 3 games backwards compatible. But the fact on Xbox that if a game isn't on Game Pass, you can still just buy it from the store if it's a 360 game, or even if it's an original Xbox game, through backwards compatibility. So maybe this will also pioneer PlayStation into being able to, bring older games to their storefront as well. I just think being able to have one box for all these games is just a really nice thing, and it's not something I've always felt. I've normally felt like, well, if you want to play PS3 games, just plug a PS3 in. But now, once you sort of have a taste of that, being able to just download games and play them at like maximum fidelity because you're on a newer console, it's really great, and I just hope that we can see more of it. And if PlayStation can do that, then that'd just be great for people.
I think you're 100% right about that, and that's a way that they can really have the best way of competing, where it's like really filling out their back catalog and allowing it to be super easily accessible on a PS5, on a PS4, where you have the service. All that full catalog is there, and it's not going to be the first party games showing up there day one like Game Pass, but one of the aspects of how Game Pass succeeds is that you have all these games that are just out the flip of a dime. You can download them, you can play them there. So I think this would be a good way to offer something like that, and help them also kind of simplify their different programs like PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus, make it easier. I don't have any info on the pricing. That wasn't part of this potential leak, so we don't know how much more it's going to be to have the top tier where all these games are now offered there. I don't know that they also have to compete on that front too, making it just cheap enough. But it's interesting, and it seems like we're going to get some info soon. I would imagine they would kind of hype this up on their own stream coming out next year, early next year, to kind of get people ready for it. But yeah, it's coming down apparently.
And it's such an opportunity as well because since getting my Xbox, I've noticed how the PlayStation 5 just has an infinitely superior user experience when it comes to not being in a game. I don't know if you agree, but the Xbox UI and like the operating system in general is, I find it quite lethargic and slightly slow and overly complicated when it doesn't need to be. Like, I mean, for example, when Halo Infinite the campaign came out, it was launched at 6 p.m. in the UK, even if you had the disc as well, which was a big a big problem for people
I heard
over
about
here.
that.
But just trying to find it on Game Pass and try and download it, because it's like separate to the multiplayer, and it would only show up at 6 p.m. And even at 6 p.m. it was really difficult to find. And just the general user experience. I mean, I get lots of like errors, like typical like Microsoft errors, and problems with quick resume as well, where it just doesn't feel like lightning fast and easy to approach like the PlayStation does. The PlayStation feels like a proper purpose driven, and I didn't feel this way as much before I got the Xbox. Before, I was kind of assuming that the Xbox was just the same, like where it's really fast, really easy to understand. But now I've got one. I just think that if PlayStation are able to in some way not even like offer these games for the subscription price like Xbox Game Pass does, but just give us access on the store to PS3 games, PS2 games, or whatever. Just give us more accessibility and more option for these older titles. Then it would absolutely take off above everything else, because the user experience currently, in my opinion, is like miles apart between the two. And the only reason but I am playing my Xbox more at the moment because Game Pass is great, and it's all at the end of the day, it's about playing games on it. So if PlayStation can match that aspect of things, then I think it's going to be a real get for them because the foundations are there, and the foundations are far better from a user's perspective in terms of like navigating the menus and everything like that. But I don't know if you agree. I might be on my own in that regard.
Well, until Sony lets us hold the power button down on the PS5 to turn off, I'm going to say Xbox is better. Until they change that, that's what I want. But you are right, where it's more streamlined, and especially on Xbox, there's more emphasis on your friends and how those screens pop up and kind of take over. With PlayStation, and maybe you can argue it's harder to go in there and find them, but I feel like the way it's arranged is more just pleasant and easier to find what you want compared to Xbox. There's just a bunch of stuff, and each game has its own little page, and just scrolling through, it's kind of a mess. I know you can toggle stuff on and off. I haven't spent a bunch of time there, but it seems like still PS5 feels like it is a next gen experience with maneuvering around, a snappy UI menu. So I
Yeah,
agree with you on that.
yeah. I think like you can get sort of into the actual like where things are and how easy things are to get to. But I think it's more just the Xbox. It doesn't feel, when I first got the PS5, I was like, wow, this is like insanely fast. Like there's no load, like everything's baked in. Like even the store, even when you search for things, it's still like instant. It doesn't load. It's like it's preloaded, like already there. And an Xbox, it's not just that it's slightly slower or anything like that. It's also just the fact that and it might just be me, I might just be unlucky, but I get like a ton of errors all the time, especially when I first set it up. I had some issues, um, and yeah, I just feel like the general user experience is just much better on the PlayStation 5. And before I had the Xbox, again, I just assumed that it's a next gen console. It's going to be exactly the same. It'll obviously be a different layout and everything like that, but it just doesn't feel next gen at all. And then when you're in a game, obviously, of course it does, but when you're outside of the game, it just feels very middling and just not. And again, it's not like a massively important thing. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop playing. It doesn't mean I'm going to play my PlayStation more because of it. But if PlayStation can match Xbox, where Xbox is clearly doing much better, and that is being able to access this huge library of games, then I don't know what. And this is like trying to speak from the perspective of somebody who is like comparing the two. I don't know what Xbox can then do to because obviously they've done this and they've really like gone ahead with it. But if PlayStation are able to match that in content wise, then I don't know what Xbox can do to sort of come back from that.
Gotcha. It's interesting. We'll see. We'll see what comes forward here.